The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
Oh shit! It's Vince Russo!
Vince McMahon's best-kept secret.
I am the Antichrist of professional wrestling.
David Arquette won the world title.
I've got a wife, 3 kids at home, and I really don't need this shit.
How can this show be so awful, Mr. McMahon? I didn't think it was.
Viagra on a pole match.
And Hogan, you big bald son of a bitch, kiss my ass.
Judy Bagwell on a forklift match. McMahon, the family, The Rock, they screwed us all.
Now you're the editor, right?
Mankind did it! Jumpy, beep. Goldberg steered Russo out of the cage.
I'm from New York.
I'll get downright nasty.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
Hello, everybody. This is Vince Russo, and this is Lions, Tigers, Bears, and Dirt, brought to you by Podcast One and the Realm Network. As you know, you could hear the audio on Podcast One for free, and you can see the video on the Realm Network a day earlier for $2.95 a month. Just go to russosbrand.com and sign up. I'm here with my co-host, Jeff Lane. Jeff, how you doing today?
Doing good. I had a successful day today, as you know.
I would not listen, bro. If you're deeming your selection during the Raw and SmackDown draft a success, you have no idea what the word success means.
We will let the people decide that.
Yes, we will. But let me ask you one other question, bro. How did he make his way onto the show again? What is this now? 3 weeks in a row now?
I believe he was invited.
Well, I know, but see, that's the thing, bro. Like, we have the show. We film this show on Thursday night. He comes on the show. Once the show's over, all the way to through Wednesday, sometimes into Thursday morning, I tell you, I'm never bringing him on the show again. I want to know what happens between Thursday morning and this time right now.
Your senses kick in and you realize that he's a great addition to the show, and you know it's good for business.
Ladies and gentlemen, the no good dirty Disco Inferno is with us tonight. Disco, how you doing tonight?
Doing fine, you know. I mean, how should I be doing? You know,
I don't know.
Like, you don't exactly like promote my appearance on the show. You make it sound like it's you know, it's a burden. Have me on here. The only reason, you know, like it's the only reason you bring me on here is why do you keep bringing me back?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm kind of surprised that you aren't wearing any sleeves tonight. You know, that's kind of a shocker to me that you're wearing the guinea tee again. Yeah, I'm real surprised by that. Jeff, I know we got a lot of important news tonight, so let's get to it, bro.
2 big WWE news bits, and I want to kind of take these one at a time. The rating came in for Raw. It was very similar to last week. It was up a tick, so I figured there was no point in breaking that down. Go watch last week's episode because it's pretty much the same thing. But the first part of this WWE news is that they are splitting the brands again like they did, you know, in the early and mid-2000s. There's going to be a separate roster for Raw than there will be for SmackDown.
Jeff, what's your take on that first? We never hear from you first. Let me hear your take on that first.
Well, I think it's what it's doing right now, and I think you can equate it to when they put in the interleague play in baseball. Everybody's excited right now. It's got everybody talking. Who's going to be on what roster? They're going to be excited. They're going to tune in. But I think months and months and months, or a year or so from now, if they don't capitalize and we see the same type of creative, it's going to fizzle out. Just like interleague play is not a big deal anymore. So it just all depends on the creative. I think it's a good sort of can't think of the word I'm thinking of, but you know, gets people's attention right away. Might bring some new eyes to SmackDown. So I think it's good, but it ultimately depends on the creative. So,
Glenn, what's your take?
How is it going to bring new eyes?
I think people that watch Raw that don't watch SmackDown, because there's about 1 million or 800,000 difference in the viewership, or 1 million or whatever. I bet you they will try SmackDown just to see the other half of the roster.
So it's going to be good for just the SmackDown number then, I guess. Is that and then that this is strictly for SmackDown then, right? I mean, it's not going to prove. I mean, the product's not going to improve. It's the same guys. You know, those I was saying. You know what's funny? Because like I started watching like some of the, some of the old stuff on the network. Because you review the Raws, the old Raws, bro. When I'm watching the old Raws, these are from like what 17, 18 years ago, right?
Yeah.
You're doing it, bro. You know what I was thinking? As low as the rating is right now, and as good as those shows were back then, I was wondering to go, what if they didn't air Raw this week and just started showing the Attitude Era Raws?
Wow.
I wonder what the rating would be of the show.
That's
because you have a lot of you have an 18-year gap. Okay, so and the target audience of wrestling back then when you were writing was you saw the numbers, you were writing for the 18 to 34-year-old demographic, correct?
Yes.
So we have gone through a whole cycle of that demographic until now. So everybody that watched the Raw from 18 years old back then has already cycled through, and basically they're 36 years old right now, right? So they've watched all the wrestling from for 18 straight years. Bro, I wonder what an 18-year-old kid right now that maybe just want to start to watch wrestling, and they start watching instead of watching the show they're watching now live. If you put that show on from 1998, what do you think the rating? They're at 2.2. They bottomed out. They're at the numbers. They're at the lower numbers than they were before the Monday Night War started. Actually, I believe, aren't they, Vince?
Oh yeah,
I think yes. Okay.
Remember, I went back, based on your coercing, bro. I went back because they just dipped below a 3, so we're looking at 2.2 now.
Right. Yeah, so it's like so just like you put that in perspective, bro. The guys they have right now, you could split them up, you could do whatever. It's still the same guys. It's not going to the rating's not going to increase regardless of whether you're live or not. As a matter of fact, the way crowd reactions are going on the shows right now, I was thinking they would more be apt to going towards 2 taped shows where you can edit the crowd responses, which are killing the show these days, as opposed to adding another live show. Like to me, adding another live show is just opening up the Pandora's box for just letting this audience just continue to hijack your show each week.
Glenn, let's talk about this for a minute. It's very interesting that you brought this up because Jeff and myself dissected it on this past week's show Raw Then and Now. Glenn, when you look at the Attitude Era show, and I pointed this out to Jeff, and I told Jeff to watch for this, it is crystal clear, Glenn, they are controlling the audience. The audience is chanting exactly what they want, what the WWE wants them to say at the exact times they want them to say it. They're literally controlling the audience. Cheer here, boo here, chant nugget here. It's crystal clear, bro. They own the audience. The audience is in the palm of their hand. We fast forward to 2016, Glenn. It's the total opposite. The audience is out of control. The audience is dictating the show. The audience is ruffling the feathers of the talent during the promos. The audience doesn't respect anymore. Bro, I saw Vince McMahon rattled by the audience a couple of weeks ago. So, Glenn, I want you to break this down for me. How did we go in 16 years from totally controlling the audience, making them the part of the show that we want them to be, to today where, like you said, in your words, they have totally hijacked the show? How has that happened?
I've got a take, and everybody has a take. Everybody thinks they have all the answers, but this to me is the evolution of it's your Smart Mark fan base. And let me give you the evolution of how this happened. It started off the Smart Mark fan base started off at ECW. The ECW fans and the ECW crowd was a small 1,500 people, jam packed. They typical mid 20-year-old kids kind of geeky, kind of introverted, no girls in the crowd, all chanting smart mark chants like, you effed up, you effed up, those type of chants and everything. So then that fan base, okay, when ECW went out of business, kind of gravitated towards like the Ring of Honor, okay, because like a lot of the ECW type fans gravitated towards Ring of Honor because it's the not WWE show, like, okay. Mm-hmm. So now, as we've seen over the years, the Ring of Honor performers have now made their way onto the WWE shows. So what that does is that is drawing those fans with them. They've brought their smart mark fans along, and you don't need a lot of them to come to your live shows, okay? But basically, like the smart mark crowd goes to the shows for one reason and one reason only, and that is to put themselves over. Okay, to try and be as vocal as possible, to try and ruin things, and bro, you know what I'm
Wait, Glenn, let me stop you right there. Hold on, because I don't want to miss this question. I want you to go on, but I have to ask you this. Glenn, explain to me the psychology. Like, what if you can? What goes on in the mind of somebody's head? Glenn, let's face it, you and I in our lifetime, and Jeff. Bro, we've been to thousands and thousands of fan participating, whether it's a game. Jeff's a huge Buffalo Bill fan. I've been to a million baseball games. Bro, we've been to a million concerts. We're the audience. We're enjoying the show. Bro, what is the mindset of somebody that decides, I'm going to go to the wrestling show tonight, and I am going to make sure that I create enough noise and enough disturbance in order to be acknowledged or recognized? Honestly, bro, what goes through somebody's mind that's why you're going to a WWE event?
I don't know. I'm not a geek. I can't put my mindset in that. It's like, bro, like you watch, like that's the thing. You watch the old Raw shows. They pan the crowd. There's a lot of hot chicks in the crowd.
Yeah.
Like there is a definite difference in the wrestling audience today, to the way it was back then. The show had more sex appeal. The guys were, there was like the show had sex appeal. There is no sex appeal on the show right now because they have all the females. They're all wrestling each other, and none of them are any of the females on the show actually in relationships? No. With any of the other wrestlers that aren't shown? Well, think about that.
Yeah, none of the female wrestlers. You got Maurice there with his.
Right, okay, it's his wife. But they do the Divas show.
Yeah.
Their real life relationships. They stick that on the Divas show instead of sticking it on the regular show.
Bro,
which
Glenn, it's so funny that you say that because this is like months and months and months ago. I happened to stumble on the Diva show. And, bro, Wade Barrett was blowing off Alicia Fox. Bro, I think Alicia Fox is freaking gorgeous, right? He's blowing her off like she's yesterday's news. She's falling apart because she loves Barrett. And I'm like, there's your freaking story on Raw. Does somebody really need to... Right, does somebody really need to say exactly? I get you 100%, bro.
Yeah, but basically, bro, but think about it. You know what the crowd is today? And this is kind of like over the past 4, 5, 6 years, okay? Who have been the two most over guys in the WWE in the past 5, 6 years? Who do you think they've been?
I mean, I would have to say Cena and Lesnar.
Besides Brock's a different animal, but basically the two for Punk, CM Punk, and Daniel Bryan, okay?
Right, yeah.
Which are kind of like they're kind of like the average-looking guys that don't look like wrestlers that the fans gravitate towards. Bro, like CM Punk is not like he's not like a great guy. He's kind of like a prick. He was kind of like outspoken, very negative towards a lot of things. Bro, the fan base today, it seems like just like the arena is filled with a whole bunch of CM Punk fans. That they just want to be obnoxious. They want to rail against the what do you want to call it, authority, that they want to rail against the good, Vince, because that was Punk's whole angle, that guys like, Vince would always say guys like him didn't belong on the show. He always pushed the big guys. He always pushed his muscular guys, that fit his mold. And that's kind of what the fans have, they're kind of like using Punk's mentality. They boo the guys that Punk basically pointed out and said, hey, these are the guys that you like to push, but these guys can't work. You know what I'm saying? So then, and you have an arena filled with fans like that, and it's very difficult, to basically, have your show when they're the guys you're trying to push. Like, bro, Vince, me and you talked today, and this is what people don't realize, okay? And it's because they're not Vince McMahon and they're not writing the checks, okay? It's not their money, right? Is that here's how you gauge it. You look at that show and picture the WCW roster and the WWE roster back in 1997, 98, during the Monday Night Wars. How many guys on our show and on your show could you have taken a world title belt, put over their shoulder, and put them on Good Morning America with Kelly and with Kelly Ripa, and sold them to the audience of America and said, "Hey, this is the face of our company. We're pro wrestling. Watch us." Okay? How many guys on the roster right now can you do that with?
God, bro.
I mean, back then, how many could you do it with? 20 to 30?
Yeah, easy.
Guys, probably easy. And how many can you do with now? Cena, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and like you're kind of like you're kind of running to bro. There was 30 guys that you could sell to like to the world. There are guys right now. If you took the guys that they're pushing prominently, that if you put the belt on their shoulders and stuck them on Good Morning America and said, "Hey, this is the champion," bro, people would laugh.
Yeah.
Non-wrestling fans would literally laugh and say like that guy's the champion. You know what I'm saying? So you have a roster full of guys that you can't sell to America. And so but the fans don't understand that.
And that's why that's why they're using the business plan now. Exactly what you said, Glenn. We have a roster full of people that we can't sell to America, but we can sell them to this IWC crowd that shows up to every show and bang every one of those people over the head to get as much money from them as we possibly can. That's the business plan today, bro.
I guess because the traditional business plan isn't working, but the problem is that the fans want you like they're trying to force the promotion to put the guys over that you can't put on Good Morning America. Right. That you can't put on ESPN Sports, and that you can't host the ESPYs. They don't like those guys. They're booing those guys. But those are the guys that you need because when your ratings have bottomed out, the question doesn't even I hear all these podcasts and people talk about the booking of Roman Reigns and all this and stuff and everything. What do they do? They're talking about like the intricacies and the details of the show, but the real question is like when you're at a 2.2, okay. Every single week when you write that show and when the show goes on live and it airs, at the end of that show you need to ask yourself, boy, did we do enough to get people that didn't watch the show this week to watch the show and watch again next week?
Right.
Okay? And every single week, what has been the answer to that?
Yeah, it's not even close. No.
Nothing. We haven't done anything. We're just feeding into this crowd that wants good matches, and they want to push the guys that you shouldn't. That honestly you should. I mean, you can't push these guys higher than they are. A lot of these guys, and they're stuck because they've started pushing these guys higher than they should go, and now here you are, and you're at a 2.2, bro. There's a cause effect relationship here that you could probably draw a lot of evidence from. That as they've started pushing these guys. Your numbers have gone down. Okay, let's rewind back a year ago. I mean, we'll just use him as an example, just because he does. I mean, I'm not discrediting people's talent. Okay, and people misconstrue you. You don't either. I discredit the. There is a lot to speak of the power of the eye test. You have to be able to pass the eye test to be able to draw a crowd in professional wrestling because you're on TV. You need to be a TV star.
I mean, let me just say this. Forget about wrestling. Forget about wrestling. Bro, you've got to pass the eye test to be on TV, period.
I agree.
Not just wrestling, period.
Bro, we can go back. Let's go back a year. They started taking these NXT guys and putting them on TV. Bro, back then, they were doing 2.7s, 2.8s, and 2.9s. Okay? Let's fast forward a year. These guys have been on TV for a year, and you've lost what? 25 to 30% of your audience?
Yeah.
You can't ignore that You know what I'm saying? I mean, they put guys on the show that everybody thinks are great workers, but like I said, the channel surfer is going to look, change the channel, look at these guys and say, who's that? I'm not. That's a wrestler guy. Come on. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, Jeff, I think I'm going to be real brief because I want to move on to the next topic. But I think, listen, bro, the Raw is terrible as it is. By watering down,
I don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah, by watering down the product, it's going to be even worse, bro. But I'll be honest with you, I'm excited for us, Jeff, only because it gives us more material. It gives us more to talk about. I mean, so from our business model, I'm happy about it. It gives us some completely to talk about, but I literally am afraid of, like, how do you go from bad to worse? Like, I don't know. Let's move on because I want to hear Glenn's opinions on Cody Rhodes. Glenn being one of the boys, Glenn having many conversations with creative. So let's get into that story right now.
Okay, well, you skipped the second half of this. Are we not covering that?
I don't think we need to, bro.
Okay.
Jeff had a big take, it sounds like.
I had something I wanted to say.
It was go ahead then, Jeff. I didn't know that. Basically, it's the same thing, so that's why I said no. But go ahead, Jeff.
No, I just wanted to know what everybody's thoughts was, how this affects TNA with SmackDown moving to Tuesdays now.
I mean, how is it going to affect TNA? It's like how many, bro? What's the number of TNA? How many people watching?
Like 300,000.
They got 350 this week.
It doesn't even merit discussion. There's like half the independent wrestlers out there have more Twitter followers than TNA has viewers each week.
Right, but see, like the point.
It's a negligible. It's an indie show, bro, that nobody watches.
Right.
Go ahead,
the point I wanted to throw out there was because at first I'm like, well, they're done. Like that's gonna go from 350 to like 100,000. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, the problem with TNA, one of their problems is nobody's sitting down to watch their show. But now they're going to have people sitting down at the same time they're on to watch wrestling. So if SmackDown sucks and these people start flipping the channels, they may come across TNA and decide to check it out. The problem is if they don't change their product, they're going to flip through TNA as well. But I think that maybe the creative strategies to kind of suck eyeballs off of SmackDown. I don't know.
You're absolutely right, Rick, which is a real brief. I would be this. You're absolutely right about that. However, the only problem is the only people that are going to be doing that are the smart mark crowd. Your casual fan is going to flick on SmackDown, and then they're going to switch on TNA, and TNA is going to look minor league. Yeah. Okay, because the set, the visual product. So you're not going to get. It's not going to help you drawing casual viewers. It may help you draw some of the smart marks that watch SmackDown into drawing eyeballs over to TNA instead. That's about. I mean, if you think about it, that's about all I'll do.
And Jeff, I'll be honest with you, bro. I don't think they're ever going to be on the same night. I really don't, bro. I really believe that Pop TV will change the night of TNA before SmackDown moves to Tuesday night. I don't even think it's going to be an issue, bro. I don't think they dare go head to head. Even though I believe what you're saying, it's significant. I don't think it's even going to happen.
How would you feel, Vince, if 5 years ago, when you were still writing and they drew the audience that SmackDown does now, and you had never left, and you had basically kept the same audience, and you were writing the show and stuff, and SmackDown was going head to head with you.
Would have
How
been
great
fun.
would that?
It
It would have it would have been able chance to really kind of like. Maybe make a statement about what your abilities were as a writer compared to what people have thought all these years,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jeff, let's talk about Cody. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Cody Rhodes requested his release, and it was granted, and he came out with a lengthy statement, and there was two parts in there that I thought were very interesting that I wanted to get both of your thoughts on, so I want to take them one at a time. The first one was, he said, "My goal in pro wrestling has always been to win the WWE Championship, the one accolade in the game my father never obtained. And for a decade, I tried to convince both Vince and Triple H that I could be their star player, their varsity quarterback, if you will. But it seems we have reached the point where neither saw that in me. I sincerely appreciate Triple H's unflinching respect for my father and how he has acted as a custodian of history and honoring him since his passing. He did not owe me that same respect he gave Dream, but I thought I could earn it in time. One of the last discussions we had included him telling me that WWE is a play and everybody has their role and needs to act at their best. All I can think of to say to that is the best actors don't want lesser roles. Thoughts on that portion of the statement? That's pretty much lining out one of his dissatisfactions was he wanted to be at the top and he didn't get that opportunity.
Well, bro, nobody would have probably ever even considered leaving the WWE if they were not on the network. Okay, if like they say they didn't have the network and WrestleMania was a pay-per-view, and the WrestleMania check was your golden ticket. Your WrestleMania check and your SummerSlam check were your golden tickets that were dangling and stuff. The payday, right? Well, right now, bro, they got to be making less money. And Cody Rhodes probably had conversations. What would my price be on the Indies? Be able to be, not have to deal with the BS of being buried on that show, and probably, get a pretty good chunk of change for wrestling on the Indies, and be able to go to Japan. Bro, a lot of these guys like him, and the spot they wore in the card, they may be taking, what do you call it? A promotion by actually like leaving WWE. They might be making more money. You never know. There's tons of options for WWE guys. Like there's a lot of work out there on the indie circuit that in Japan and stuff and everything that you can go and make money. I mean, bro, if I was him, I could see like really no problem no leaving. I mean they weren't doing nothing with them. They were doing silly stuff with them. They thought I mean he was what he was. He was a good athlete. They probably had him doing things that he felt uncomfortable doing. He probably brought, like what he's talking about is he probably brought them a lot of ideas for things that he wanted to do that he probably felt comfortable doing, and they never pursued it. And, he probably just got frustrated. Like I said, we're in the era of scripted acrobatics, and they're handing you the script. The WWE script. A lot of the guys, you have to do the script as they've handed it to you. And maybe he had spoken up enough and didn't felt uncomfortable doing stuff, was forced to do things, and just basically, I've had it, and I'll go on the Indies and do what I want to do. Do my own thing. Yeah,
and in the second part, he gets into the creative, and that's the second part I wanted to read. But do you guys think the first part was the boss didn't have the same faith in him that he saw himself as? Mm-hmm. So, and I know both of you, Vince particularly, have talked about how everybody can't be the top guy. But when you're this confident in yourself, do you think he acted in the right way here?
Of course.
Yeah, well, bro, from what I could see, I don't think he ever got the opportunity to be the top guy. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, no, not everybody can be the top guy, but if a guy speaks up, and you give him a shot, then we'll find out. I just don't think he was ever given that shot. What's the second part, Jeff?
The second part, he says, in the past 6 months, I have pleaded with WWE Creative and both of my bosses to let me roll the dice and once again be Cody Rhodes. I had pitched to every writer on staff like a door-to-door salesman on how and why and when, and believe me, there are many of those who sought to help me, and he names a bunch of creative people. And then he says, but for all that, both head writers of Raw and SmackDown, one pretending to be Brian Gewirtz and the other too busy hitting on developmental divas, continued to not return my pitches or emails, and in face-to-face encounters tried to big league me by pretending to be on their clearly powered off laptops, barely willing to listen to an idea I considered beneficial to more than one talent.
How do you take that, Glenn?
It's kind of maybe symptomatic of what's going on in the show right now. But bro, you know what I've always said? Like when we wrote, when we were booking back in WCW, and I've always, when I did Sean Oliver's, kayfabe commentary, so what does it take to be, a booker, a writer? I said, bro, all you need is ideas. Ideas. Just have a bunch of ideas, and you can't there should never be an ego involved in the creative process, because a good idea is a good idea no matter where it comes from. Your mother could give you a good idea, okay, but you're not going to sit there and say, but guys like us wouldn't say, like, Mom, you don't know wrestling, I'm not going to, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you can't be egotistical in the creative process, okay? So if somebody's coming to you and they're confident in basically they're confident in the idea they're giving you, and you really don't have much for them, and if your ideas aren't doing much to promote them, why not just roll with it? Why not take some of the ideas that Cody Rhodes had and say, you know what, let's give this a try. Instead of sitting there saying trying to oh well, this guy's he's the talent, he's not creative, he's I'm the writer and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I could see that's what's going on in their product right now. Maybe guys speak up because you don't see a lot of individual creativity in a lot of the characters on their show. You see a lot of guys that are very uncomfortable performing the gimmicks that they've given. They're uncomfortable performing their lines. They're uncomfortable when they're in front of the live audience cutting their scripted promos. You know what I'm saying? But maybe these guys aren't as maybe they're not as bad as we think they are when they're doing that. Maybe they're just really not confident in the material they've been given, and you see it on the show. And but the problem is, we've talked about before a million times, Vince, is grabbing that brass ring. Bro, speak up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe what Cody's saying is, maybe if you do speak up for yourself, maybe this is the way they treat you. And maybe it causes you to quit. You know what I'm saying? Like Cody did.
Yeah. Well, you want to hear something funny, you guys, that we're talking about all this, and it's on point. I listened to an old interview the other day, Stern. He was interviewing Andrew Dice Clay, and the interview was Dice literally had his first, big comeback, his first acting role on a Woody Allen movie. Okay? And Dice was talking about, I hadn't done a movie in, 20 years. This was my first movie back. Of all people, Woody Allen is the director. But Dice was talking about literally he got the script and then going to Woody Allen with suggestions and ideas. And he sat there and said, believe it or not, Woody Allen took some of my suggestions and ideas. So, I'm sitting back and I'm listening to this. Can you imagine Andrew Dice Clay going to Woody Allen, one of the greatest directors ever, and saying, hey, Woody, how about we do it this way or do it that way? And Woody Allen being open and acceptive to that. But meanwhile, the WWE, you got Yahoo writers that are you want to pick up NXT chicks, and they're not listening to a word that the talent is telling them. I mean, is something wrong with that picture or what?
Bro, who's the writer that was trying to pick up the NXT divas? Do we know any details on that? Who would that be?
There was a rumor that it was the guy that just came up from NXT that was the head writer at NXT and is now the head writer at SmackDown.
Right, they made him head writer SmackDown, right? Who is
I don't know if that's true or not. His name's Ryan Ward.
What is Jimmy Jacobs doing? Is he a writer for NXT now?
Bro, I don't even know who these people are, bro.
Well, Jimmy Jacobs is like an ROH talent. That they actually brought into NXT to be a writer, so I'm wondering, who is writing NXT right now?
Something I read is they hired some guy that was a fan, but was like a comedian or something, I don't know, and he got a chance, and now he's writing NXT. I don't know. It's dirt cheap stuff, so who knows if it's true.
Vince, you know what you should do? When you see these bro, you should apply for a WWE writer online and use a different name and put your resume on it.
Oh God, bro, I should. Hey, Jeff, let's jump to because you got one that I definitely want to talk about. But let's jump to the Ring of Honor story because I don't know what this is and I'm curious.
Okay, Kerry Silkin, who used to be the owner of Ring of Honor, claims that Ric Flair owes him $41,000 because he failed to meet the requirements laid out when he was the Ring of Honor ambassador. I guess he paid him up front, $41,000. This is what this guy's saying, and Flair didn't hold up his end of the bargain. So Ring of Honor, they sued in 2010, but then they dropped the lawsuit when the company was sold to Sinclair. So Flair's going to be at this signing, and this guy tweets, Ric Flair and Steamboat Live, July 23rd at Sands in Bethlehem. I will be there to collect the $41K that Flair owes me.
What does this guy Kerry Silkin look like?
I have no idea.
It'd be a funny story if Kerry Silk showed up with the guy that looked like Brock Lesnar. You know, it's like kind of. But bro, let me tell you how this story is going to end. This is like a good thing. Like basically, what the guy just did is he helped out whoever's promoting that show.
Oh yeah.
To draw a pretty good crowd.
Yeah.
Because they want to see this guy come and collect, to collect the money from Ric Flair. But what's going to happen is because this is a legal process. The guy's probably going to show up, bitching and moaning, and the guy escorted out. I go, let me tell you one thing that's not going to happen, okay? And I will bet a year's pay on this. That Kerry Silkin is not going to leave there with $41,000 of Ric Flair's money, okay? I will guarantee you that's not going to happen, all right?
I hate, man. I got to tell you, man. It's a pet peeve of mine. I hate when like promoters or people like this. I hate when people bring personal issues like that to the internet. Like that drives me. To me, that is so freaking unprofessional and unwarranted. That drives me absolutely insane, bro. I think that is so out of line, so out of place. You got an issue with Ric Flair, settle it with Ric Flair. You don't need to go online, because I guarantee you on the other side of the coin there's a whole other story. I hate when promoters do stuff like this, man. It drives me nuts.
Well, don't you think a lot of it, and definitely not with this case because he's not promoting now, but you look at some of the indie promoters that do this, when a talent cancels on them that they've been advertising, and when that person doesn't show up, they get all the blame, and the fans are upset with the promoter. So do you still think that's wrong, that they're trying to cover their own butt by putting the truth out there so that the fans know that it wasn't their fault that this person didn't show up in situations like that?
Yeah, well, Jeff, I think there's a way to do that. You know what I mean, bro? I think there's a professional way to cover yourself without burying the other person involved. I think there's a way of doing that. But every time I see this done, I just see them completely burying the talent. Glenn, what are you laughing about? What are you thinking over there?
Bro, remember the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where they gave away the dry cleaner accidentally gave away his clothes to another guy?
Yeah.
And the dry cleaner's trying to explain to him, it's like, hey, that's just the rule. You give one, you get one. It's like it happens. Basically, what they're saying is like sometimes sometimes we give your clothes away. That's just like that's like bad luck, right? I'm just, bro. When you say about promoters, bro, being a pro wrestlers wrestle the indies, bro. Promoters cancel all the time.
Yeah, that's
okay.
true.
And your date that date is down the tubes.
Yep. It works both ways.
You mark your calendar and everything. So like I said, it kind of works both ways. Talent's going to screw promoters sometimes, and a lot of times, the promoters are going to screw over the talent. I'll be honest with you. There's more cases that I've seen in over the years of promoters screwing over talent than talent not showing up for the shows. Okay, because basically the talent always wants to get paid.
Yeah.
Like that's the bottom line. So the people getting the money are less apt to screw you over than the people paying you. That's pretty much the rule.
Yeah, and bro, that's a great point, Glenn, because a lot of people don't realize that. The promoter calls the talent months in advance. The talent books the date. Then all of a sudden, the promoter hasn't sold enough tickets. In 2 weeks, they cancel the show. That talent, blocked that date and booked that date. Now we can't work that weekend. And a lot of people don't understand. That happens quite a bit.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, let's look at the last story now, because I love this one. I love this one, and I think I'm going to really be able to sink my teeth into this one. I think Glenn, too.
Okay, so Dixie Carter did an interview with the Fan Garage, and I guess this is something, it's an Indian podcast or...
Can we stop right there? Let's stop right there. Glenn,
the Fan Garage.
Can you imagine Vincent K. McMahon appearing on the Fan Garage? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. We got a mystery guest here who needs to put his microphone on. Who needs to put his microphone on before he can make his great grand appearance. But Glenn, can you imagine Vincent K. McMahon appearing on the Fan Garage?
Oh, bro. When you said the Fan, but bro, Jeff, there's like, we pretty much know most of the podcasts out there. You have MLW, Podcast One, Meltzer's, Wade Keller's, the Torch and stuff. There's the Wrestling Inc. Guys and stuff. What is it? In Your Head Radio. But what is?
Well,
what on earth is why is Dixie not doing podcasts with those guys?
Well, because bro, I'm begging her to come on podcast one with me. But let me ask you this: why is wait a minute?
Garage Twitter account for this the Fan Garage.
Why isn't she doing a podcast with this gentleman that just joined us? Okay, a surprise guest, bro. Listen, this is a run-in, Glenn. To put you in your place once and for all. You didn't know he was coming on the show. He's on the show. Now we're going to call you out on all your weekly BS. The iconic international superstar, the great Konnan, has joined us. Konnan, how you doing, my friend?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. I just want to say to Needle Dick, Baby Nuts, Ukaki Face Boy, Glory Hole King, that I can. First of all, you're banned from MLW. That's right off the bat. And I'm starting a petition.
I figured I was. I figured I was.
You're coming out here and you're telling everybody. And another thing I want to say. Unlike above average Mike Sanders.
Konnan, is the sun in your eyes? I mean, is there a reason you can't fully open up your eyes at this point in time?
Yeah,
is the sun coming in through the window?
No. I partook of what you would call ganji.
Okay. I go on. Now, you were talking about the great Mike Sanders. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, unlike Mike Sanders, who will always be above average, you will always be sub-average. And every time I think about you and Jeremy Boresh, all I can think about is same-sex marriage. Why did you come on my show, read some bullshit letter from your pegging partner where he basically buries himself? Because at the end, and Vince, I don't know if you know this, he's got some letter that Jeremy gave him, and he came on our show, and he reads it, and at the end, he basically says this: Konnan can't hold the job for a cup of coffee, and I work for Chef Irvine or some shit, Chef Boyardee, and I fucking, I'm on the Howard Stern show, probably giving him hand jobs, and maybe I should, maybe it's better that I be a stooge. What the fuck is that?
Hey, Konnan, for your information,
Konnan,
wait, hold on. You've hijacked this show enough. I'm talking to the great Konnan. Konnan, for your information, he came on this show last week and read the same letter as if he was Jeremy. Yeah, bro, as if he was Jeremy Borash's campaign manager.
Absolutely. I try to defend the good name of Jeremy Boresh against this onslaught of slander and malicious comments from Cody. You got to let's be honest here. You have got to come up, okay? Because Jeremy was in Vegas recently and we spoke.
Yeah.
Jeremy literally has no clue why you have so much heat with him and think he's a stooge. You got to be specific because he can't figure out why. And everybody wants to know.
The reason that Terry Taylor, Jeremy Boresh, and what's this other motherfucker's name, which I'm also going to put on the stooge, Hall of Fame, the yearly voting that we have, is Bill Barron's. Okay. So here's the deal. When I sued TNA, part of the due diligence was any memo that had my name on it, they had to be able to read it. So there were internal memos from Jeremy Boresh, and I'm going to tell you a little story about him that I was just told off the air. Jeremy Boresh, Terry Taylor, and Bill Barron's just stooging me and other people off. And I'm like, bro, I have the internal memos. I actually have the bill.
Stooging you off for what? For doing something wrong? What did you do?
You
did something wrong. And first of all, Terry Taylor's job is a stooge. The guy's a director of talent relations. That is what the job description is.
Look.
You're supposed to report to the boss and tell you all the crap that the guys are doing. That's his.
Let me give you one specific instance of Terry Taylor, the guy who had so much class that we'd be fucking in a airplane, in a line, waiting to go on a fucking plane, and this motherfucker has a Playboy opened up like that to the centerfold in public. Just no fucking taste. Come on. This is the guy you're fucking defending. You know, so Terry
I'm not
Taylor,
just. Wait, time out.
you know,
I'm not defending. I've never defended
I'm going to
Terry
give you
Taylor.
specific. I'm going to give you one specific with Terry. Boom. When we were having problems with Jeff Jarrett over some racial bullshit, you know, he would go, well, if I were you, I would sue him for fucking, you know, racial discrimination. And then he'd go and tell Jeff shit that I told him. That all came out in the memo, dude. That's fucking being a stooge.
That's.
And let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story.
I'm not arguing that Terry.
And let me tell you a story. But let me tell you a story that I also heard about your friend Jeremy Borash. A friend of mine told me that when Vince Russo was supposed to go to the WWA in Australia, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were on that tour with me, weren't you?
Yeah, we were, of course.
That was a hell of a tour.
Yeah, great tour. Those were the 5 guys. The 5 guys in the back of the bus.
Yeah.
That's where
In a minute, you got to tell Vince that story.
Okay.
So, anyways, Vince told Jeremy to go in his place to Australia. Jeremy ends up undercutting Vince, staying there for less money. That's your boy, Jeremy. Is that a true story or not? Is that a true story?
Yeah, that is, Konnan. And me taking the high road, I've never brought that up. But yeah, I will verify that. But Konnan, since we have you here, can you verify a story for me that Mr. Gilbernetti has denied for like over a decade now?
Right.
And we were the only 3 people there, Konnan. Okay? We were at TNA, and you asked Glenn if you could borrow his phone. Right? You remember this? Is this ringing a bell? So he gives you his phone, and you go to use his phone, and you came to me and you go, Vince, you know, not for anything. I asked Glenn if I could borrow his phone. He gave me his phone. Vince, there are like 20 or 30 calls to the man line. Do you know anything about this? Can you verify that, Mr. Konnan?
No, that did happen, but the worst part is that it had like in big block letters like interracial male hand job. So, I mean, this guy's a fucking freak.
Oh,
you see, it's true.
Vince,
it's true. What do you have to say about that now?
What you have done here.
We're not judging you.
You have brought on. You have hijacked me. Okay, and ambushed me. Okay, and Konnan, and you have conspired with Konnan to discredit my good name with erroneous information and a story that can only be described as quote unquote hot garbage. Okay,
wow.
Bro, the man line. Come on, the man line. Bro, Conan's been. You know what? Do you know how ridiculous that sounds? The man. There isn't even a phone number called the man line.
Yeah, there is,
all right, what was it? 1-800 man line?
There really is. As a matter of fact,
there was. Right? Back then there was. Yeah, right. Whatever. Sure, there was.
Hey, Konnan, can we agree, you and I? Can we agree that pretty much the Disco Inferno killed WCW?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And
confirmation.
Really,
Thank you.
And left TNA in the shape that it's in now.
Oh, that's no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
How do you figure that?
You know what I did like? I think it was the very last time we were on TNA, which I think you only were like for one day and left. You did this promo in the middle of the ring. You remember maybe with Mr. Anderson or somebody?
I think so. Yeah.
Kennedy,
oh yeah, Glenn.
Mr. Kennedy. Yeah, that was very good.
Yeah, well, I wrote it, of course. But anyway, listen, Jeff, read the Dixie comments. Now that we have Konnan, we'll let Konnan chime in on the comments Dixie just made like yesterday to the Fan Garage. Go ahead.
What is the Fan Garage?
It's an Indian. It's in India. It's either a podcast or a television show. I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, read the comments.
They were asking her about TNA's financial situation. And she said, you can't react to the rumors about the financial situation. That's the difficulty about being in my position. There's so much incorrect information out there about the financial situation of TNA. We are putting out some of the best television our company has ever put out, and if you watch it, you can tell. Great things are happening to our company. We just announced some associations in the Middle East. We just announced Vietnam, and a lot of similar announcements are rolling out.
Bro, Vietnam, she's putting over TNA programming in Vietnam and she can't pay the camera guy, bro.
I'm gonna tell you a saying I learned in Nashville, Tennessee, and what it actually means.
Konnan, do you need to go?
Listen. Here's the saying.
Do you need to go get any Visine? Konnan, do you need to do a Visine run? Are you okay?
No, I'm cool.
All right, go ahead, bro.
I learned this in Nashville. Bless her little heart.
Yeah, bless her heart. Yes.
Yeah. What a dumbass. Right? But she's the owner. She can't bury the company, so she's got to spin it like they're doing good. You know, that's her fucking company. But give me a fucking break.
Glenn, what are the odds of Vincent K. McMahon showing up on the Fan Garage and talking about the new WWE deal in Vietnam?
Well, and bro, the funniest thing is like you have like this like a whole crew of Vietnamese wrestlers that you can take over there and promote the show.
Yeah, right.
Bro, do they even have any Asian guys on the show?
I don't know, but bro, maybe she could bring him over here. Probably work cheap.
What the Vietnam guys?
Yeah, probably no.
There's no wrestlers in Vietnam. There's actually wrestling in Vietnam. Has
so.
Vince ever been there?
I thought there was a war going on there, bro. I don't know.
Bro, come on.
I bet you the Vietnamese think it's like WWE, NXT, or some shit. They don't even know it's TNA. Why would they have no fucking interest? It's like,
right.
Bro, I always
Dixie
say,
probably told him it's WWE. Right? Oh my god, bro! I can't believe you brought Konnan on.
Why can't you believe it, bro? Why can't you believe it?
You did go to a.
Let me on. I can ask you a
brought
question.
a credible guy. I brought a credible guy on the
time out. I want to make a point here.
I want to say something to Vince that I think he will be happy.
Go ahead,
I
Konnan.
just want to let you know, and hopefully you'll join me in this. He's banned from my podcast.
Yeah.
Hope you'll take suit. I already talked to JR, you know, and Cole Cabana. And we're gonna just get him because.
Well, not only that, I'm also going to talk to the host of the Fan Garage to ban him.
Wow.
Make sure he's banned from that show.
Time out. I want to make a point here.
Hey, Konnan. Hold on. Let me make one point. Then you can go. Konnan, how hysterical is it to you that every show he wears his Guinea T-shirt on the show to show off his arms, bro? Every single show. Look at him, bro.
Bro, come on. It's a timeout. I've already said I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, you schmuck. Okay, it's like 95 degrees outside. I got the fan. We're not in Colorado, all right? It's not like 60 degrees outside. It's hot here. Okay, but I want to ask Konnan something.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did the podcast with you guys. Okay, right. And I brought up Jeremy's responses, and you guys claim that the file was corrupted.
Yeah.
And that basically the show didn't air. Could you admit now that I was actually censored and that you didn't air that show because I read the response from Jeremy Borash to your slanderous remarks about putting him on the Stooge of the Year?
Okay. I think you know me well enough, and so does Vince, to know I have no technological capabilities of doing that. It ain't like fucking Zuckerberg from Facebook's going to call me tomorrow and, hire me for anything. I don't even know. Bro, just to get on this fucking show, I had to go through so much bullshit, and fucking they wanted like a retina recognition thing and a fucking face thing. Bro, I'm just trying to get on the show. Just to get on this thing, it took me like 8 minutes. Imagine that. So there's no way I stopped it. And as a matter of fact, that show, not to put you over, I'm putting myself over because I was on the show. That show is actually very good, and I was hot because, as Vince knows, when you got a hot show, fuck, that's a good thing, So we had a real good show, and fucking MSL calls me the next day, and he's like, yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to run that. I go, run what? He goes, yeah, I think there's one part was bad. I go, well, what part is bad? Can we at least use the other part? And he was like, no, it's all gone. I go, oh, fuck. And
there they are.
I know you want to put yourself over, but you were not censored.
Okay, well, how come why was I
But you are banned.
But how is that good for business? If you're banning, you're saying I had a good show, and now you're banning me. Why am I banned?
I'm doing another meltdown like I did with MSL when I kicked him off last year.
yeah, bro. Let me tell you something. Konnan gets more heat with people these days. Still, how do you still have heat with people? Like the only person's like ever.
Fuck?
It's like, I don't see how you can still have like heat with people after all these years.
If they have heat with me, that's their problem. I mean, it's like,
Do you think that someday that if we did a reunion show from a WCW live reunion show, do you see in the future someday that you could see me, you, and Jeremy Borash doing a podcast together at some point?
Probably not, or even going into a karaoke bar and singing together.
Yeah, Konnan, while I have you here, because Glenn's talking about you and Heat and this, that, and the other thing, can you confirm a story for me and Glenn?
Yes.
Okay. A good friend of yours from Mexico,
Right.
a man by the name of Vampiro.
Right.
He claimed in a video that in Mexico, some of the Mexican wrestlers effed chickens and then threw them on top of a roof. Can you confirm or deny that report that Mexican wrestlers were effing chickens and then flinging them on top of rooftops? Is there any truth to that statement?
Okay, since I wasn't there when it happened, I can't say no for sure, but I've never heard that story. I've never heard that ever happening. And coming from who it's coming from, there is a high propensity for some huge bullshit. This guy was on my show, and he was trying to tell me that he was on this supernatural show, like where they were chasing like supernatural spirits and shit. And they did this one thing where he went to a tree and these people had been hung from it. And he said that there were pictures and that you could see eyes in the trees.
Eyes in the trees?
Bro, do you know people are listening to you say this? I'm not the only guy listening to this podcast.
Cody, did you ever see the review show that me and Vince did where we reviewed the Vampiro DVD
Yes,
and fact checked it?
I thought you were very nice. Yes.
I thought we were very nice.
Yeah.
When you heard this, did you ever see his DVD? The Kayfabe Commentaries DVD? Have you watched it yet?
No.
Oh, bro, you got to watch. You should actually watch that at some point, and because since you were there, you could verify more of these stories. But did let me ask you this,
bro? I read a transcript.
Vampiro, did he sleep? Okay, did he sleep
Right.
with all? Okay, and I use the word all. Did
Right.
he sleep with all of the ring girls in AAA?
He wasn't in AAA that long, but he was in Arena Mexico.
Arena Mexico,
But
yeah.
I don't know if all of them, but I'm pretty sure he got to a pretty good.
Wow,
he
good
could
for
get
him.
to
Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's yeah. Let me ask you a question. Back in the day.
Yeah.
Who got more women?
Yeah.
You or Vampiro?
We were both pretty bad, so I don't know, bro. It's a pretty good toss up there.
Okay,
Konnan,
let me ask you one more question. One more question.
Yeah.
Who got more men? You or Vampiro?
Oh, that's not called for. That's
no, bro. Because I've heard rumors.
I mean, it's
Konnan, you're a guest on this show. You see what I mean?
I've heard rumors
for him to
people
bother
about
me, I must value his opinion, which I don't. But, bro, if that's my pastime, that's my pastime. Like I always tell Disco, just come out and say you're gay.
Yeah, I guess get it over with.
I'll give you an example. Hear me out, Vince. When Ricky Martin came out, were you like, oh my God, really? I mean, like, everybody knew, right?
Right.
Lance Bass, when he came out, you weren't like, really?
Yeah, right.
Disco comes out, you're not gonna be like, really? You're gonna be like, yeah, I knew.
Come on. Bro, let me tell Vince.
This is why I love Konnan. This is why I love this man.
I've heard from promoters and people in the know.
Yeah.
Okay. That basically the only reason that the Mexican wrestlers got into WCW, was that they had to service Konnan, in order to get their jobs in WCW.
That's a true story.
This is outrageous.
That's a true story.
All right, listen. This is getting
I
totally. Totally out.
This is what you get when you bring, bro. This is what you get when you bring Konnan on the show.
Yeah,
this is
totally
what happens when you bring
But this
Konnan on the show.
is podcast gold with Disco and me and Vince just chopping it up again, man.
Chopping it up. Hey, Konnan,
there's a show. I want to invite Disco on a show that I invited myself onto. How about that one? Disco.
Which one?
There's a show that he does where he reviews like music like from the 80s. Like a whole album.
Who does?
Me.
Who does?
Me.
You do?
Yeah.
But what show is that?
Chicken Necks.
You review shows on chicken necks or music?
Yeah.
Why didn't I know
Got
that?
album of the week. Album of the week every episode.
Oh,
Give me
really?
a couple
So what
albums he's
I
reviewed.
found out today, Glenn, listen to this. You're not going to believe this. This blew me away today. I would have never thought this in a million years. The great Konnan, the international superstar, big fan of REO Speedwagon.
Yeah.
Is he really?
Would you have ever
You didn't even
thought
you. Yeah, I could see that, but you were
what
not a big
about
fan
this-
of REO Speedwagon, were you?
I like REO Speedwagon.
No, but
I like
Vince
the album
didn't. I
he
heard
was
I-
talking about. Huh?
Vince, weren't you talking about how you didn't really know much about REO Speedwagon?
until I went to college in the Midwest, and that's when I got an
okay.
education. Let me talk to you guys about one of the greatest characters of all time. I want to see Konnan. If you have a, if you know what I'm talking about, Glenn, to this day, whether it's TV, movies, music, wrestling, whatever, I think this was one of the greatest characters and gimmick of all time because I fell in love with this character when I was 6 years old, and I don't think I've ever seen a better character in my life. Do you guys remember Tiny Tim?
Yeah, I remember Tiny
Tiptoe
Tim.
through the tulips.
Was that not the greatest gimmick character of all freaking time, bro?
One of them. I mean, the greatest of all time.
Greatest
Why
of
did you
all
like him?
time, bro.
Why did you like him so much?
Bro, he was so unique. Bro, you got to understand, especially back in that time, we're talking about 1966, 1967. A guy's talking about tiptoeing through the tulips, bro. He's about as
Right.
feminine as you can come. Bro, nobody was doing that back then, bro. I mean, that was really, that was unique. I just think he was an unbelievable character.
Bro, and
You
he
felt
actually
compelled-
he back then he had like a humongous rating when he married his girlfriend who was also like a part of his act, right?
Yeah, Miss Vicky, Brian, she was hot, bro. She was hot. Yeah, very underrated, Tiny Tim.
Let me ask you a question.
And then he
I'm
played a
wondering-
ukulele on top, which was
Exactly.
even more bizarre. You know,
Let me ask you a question. Since we got
or a
Konnan here,
violin.
bro, Konnan, there's in the background over your right shoulder. There's a Walgreens bag. Is there prescription medication there? What do you
You
want?
know, that's not necessary. That's
Look, everybody
That's
wants to
not
know this.
necessary.
It's a very important question, Vince. I want to
That's
know
very
what's in that
rude.
bag.
No, I'm not
I
gonna
want
answer
to
that.
know, I want to know what's in that bag.
I'm not
All
gonna
right?
answer that.
You know,
Fans
and-
wanna-
It looks like the
As a matter of
pharmacy
fact-
lettering, right?
As a matter of fact, I'm going to start hashtagging what's in the bag.
yeah.
That's
You know,
it. That's
as
gonna
a
be
matter of
what's in the
fact,
bag.
you know what, bro? Ever since he's come on here as my invited guest, you've been nothing but rude to Konnan, and he's shown the utmost respect to you. I think you
Oh,
owe Konnan an
please.
apology in front of everybody,
Are you
right? now.
kidding me? An apology for what?
You know what? Apology accepted.
Okay, there you go. Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Konnan, tell everybody about this great MLW show. My boy, Court. Hey, Konnan, I got to tell you something. I put Court Bauer over like nobody's business. I've had him on my show. I love Court. I put him over. Somebody tweeted me the other day, Vince, why are you always putting Court Bauer over? Because he's always burying your work. Does Court Bauer bury my work?
To tell you the truth, I don't remember. I don't think so, but I don't. I
I
don't.
like
I
Court,
don't remember. Huh?
I like Court a lot, bro.
Yeah. Well, you know, if he doesn't like your work, there's, you know, I mean, you know, maybe
Bro, let
one
me-
day
let
you
me-
guys can chop it up and see why he didn't like it, and you can tell him, you know, there's a lot of misinformation about you because I was I've said this before, and I think Disco was on the podcast when I said it. I remember when I was in TNA and I was sitting at the Spanish announce table, and if for you that don't know, the Spanish announce table was literally like in the middle of the crowd. And so when Vince first got the TNA, I would hear people around me screaming, fuck the Vince Russo booking, and Russo sucks, Russo. And I was like, bro, Vince didn't even write that. I was in every fucking production meeting. A lot of time you get heat
You
for
guys
shit.
want to know one thing that really pisses me off about one create, and I've never said this publicly. I'm going to say it publicly now. One creative idea pisses me off at TNA because it wasn't mine, and the people that were responsible for it still do not claim it to this day. Guys, I left TNA. I left TNA for a couple of years, and I came back. Konnan, you'll remember this like it was yesterday. I'm sitting in the meeting with Dutch and Jeff, bro. My very first meeting back, right? Konnan, they start telling me about this electrified cage. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, are you guys, I couldn't speak up. It was my first day back. But I'm like, are you guys out of your freaking mind? Do you really think that TNA has the resources to pull off an electrified cage to make it look like, you know, any way, real, shape, or form real? You guys are out of your mind. I knew Dutch got the idea from Mexico. I knew that's what it came from, but it was my first meeting there, and I really couldn't say anything, but I knew this was going to be a fiasco. So, Glenn, they have the electrified cage. I think it was America's Most Wanted against Konnan's guys, right? Bro, it is the worst thing I ever saw. The entire crowd starts chanting "Fire Russo," and I'm in the arena, and they're chanting "Fire Russo." And bro, to this day, Dutch and Jeff have still not taken onage that was their idea, and I had nothing to do with it, bro.
Bro, you should
remember how bad that was, Konnan?
Bro, and I was complaining from the very beginning. I go, bro, if this doesn't look realistic, it's gonna fucking suck. And when I got there and I looked at it, I could not believe how haphazardly and shoddy this motherfucker was. It looked JoJo as fuck. And I was like, oh my God. And then fucking Jeff is going, he's like going, do you think, I think after certain, like before it's got charged or something, it made a noise or something. There was somewhere along the line, some fucking noise came out. And he's like, listen to this noise. And it sounded like a fucking, like a little horn on a clown car.
Glenn, here was the problem. Here was the problem. They saw a lot of movies. So their idea was it's an electrified fence. As soon as somebody grabs onto it, you're going to hear the frying sound, the zzz, zzz. But here was the problem, Glenn. The guy would grab onto the cage. TNA was on such a shoestring budget. The guy would grab on the cage. 3 seconds later, you'd hear, bro, it was the worst thing I ever saw. And then Dutch, who I still love, I love Dutch. I'm not bad-mouthing Dutch, but he's done interviews where he'll say, "Oh, Vince takes credit for all his good ideas, but none of the bad ones." Bro, that was not my idea by any stretch of the imagination, bro.
Let me ask you a question, just real quick. What do you consider in the history of your booking? What do you consider your worst idea?
Two ideas without a shadow of a doubt. That if I could do them over, I wouldn't do them over. One of them I have an excuse for. The second one was like experimental, and it sucked. It outright sucked. Bro, the first one I can remember. Okay, bro. And I'm not making excuses for this, but I'm going to tell you why it flopped, bro. Bro, Big Boss Man versus Al Snow in the kennel match. Okay? The idea, bro, yeah, they're having a match in the ring, and outside the ring is surrounded by attack pit bulls. So the idea is if you get thrown out of the ring, you're getting thrown into these pit bulls. That was the idea. That's what I'm visioning. It was my idea. I'm visioning that in my mind. Meanwhile, we get these guys padded up and stuff, so if the pit bull bites into them, they'll be okay. But we were really looking for the pit bull to, like, bite into Al Snow. You know what I mean? So Glenn, the day of, I swear to you, bro, the day of, somebody smarts me up and says, "Vince, the dogs are here." So, bro, the trainers come in with about 4 or 5 pit bulls. I knew there was a problem, Glenn, when the pit bulls started licking me. I said, wait a minute, no, these are supposed to be killer dogs. Bro, they were licking me. They were wagging their tails. So, I'm like, bro, this is going to be horrible. So, bro, sure enough, we have the match. The guys get thrown out of the ring, and the dogs were licking the Big Boss Man. So, of course, yes, that was my idea. That was terrible. The second idea I had, bro. Go ahead.
Vince, before you continue, what's funny when you were saying how the dog came and he was licking you and me with the cage, that was fucking pathetic. I remember one time in Disco when they wanted to reenact that, like, Carrie scene in WCW, and they, like, missed Nash by a whole bunch like that with the fucking
blood
bucket from the top.
The bucket of blood, and missed by a mile.
Yeah.
Right. That was Vince's idea too. That was Vince's idea, 100%. Vince's
Well,
idea.
bro, do you know as a
Yes.
fact, Glenn, I swear to God, this is the truth, man. I had that cage match with Flair at the Phillips Arena. And, bro, we had a nice crowd for that one. But the finish was supposed to be, he was supposed to have me in the figure 4, and then they were supposed to drop the blood on him. Bro, he must have had me on the figure 4 for 12 minutes before they ever dropped the blood because they told me he wasn't in the right spot for them to drop the blood. I was passing out trying to sell this move, waiting for the blood to come. Bro, the other horrible idea I had was at TNA, there was a match between Sting and Abyss. It was called I think, Stairway to Heaven. And the idea was you had to fight your opponent, then you had to, like, get up on this thing, and it lifted you away. That's how you won the match. It was awful, bro. It was absolutely awful. So that's why if I birthed this electrified cage, I'd have no problem saying I did. That one wasn't mine.
Well, what I've noticed that you've done, and Konnan too, and you get everybody to agree with it, is instead of like accepting the fact that like maybe you killed WCW, you dump it in my lap and try to tell everybody that I killed WCW, and I think that's very disrespectful.
Well, I think that's a foregone conclusion.
Oh, please. I can't believe that.
Question, Vince, are you a basketball fan?
I'm more of a baseball fan.
You're more of a baseball fan. I'll get to you in a second. Then, do you think Thunder wrap it up, Glenn, or not?
Yeah, I think they do. Next game, not this game. I think the game 7. No, the game 6. Game 6. I think the Thunder are going to take him. We'll see. So when this airs, we'll see if I was right or not.
Incredible and out of this mind are Durant and Westbrook playing.
Yeah, crazy. And it was funny too, because like I'm watching like you watch these games and like what great TV they are. You know, like thinking like everybody else is like watching talking like people on Twitter talking about wrestling and stuff and everything, like watching SmackDown and Raw. And like, and I'm thinking to myself, how could you guys not be watching these basketball games? Like,
bro,
it's like,
and especially like Toronto and Cleveland now going back to Toronto, that's gonna be crazy.
Yep.
What's up with your Vince? What's up with your Giants?
Oh, bro, they're on a roll now. They just, bro, you know that, bro, are you a Padre? Bro, they're 9-0 against the Padres this year. You know, hey, Konnan, listen, we're running out of time, bro. Tell everybody about this MLW podcast that you're on, and now, especially since Disco's been banned, thank God. Now at least we can enjoy it. Tell everybody about it, man.
MLWradio.com. There's MLW show, and there's Kevin Sullivan, MSL. There's Jim Cornette. There's a whole bunch of shows there, indie wrestling, etc. And we have Disco on there from time to time, friend of the show, currently banned. And so MLWradio.com. My Twitter is Konnan, Konnan 5150, and basically that's about it.
All right, Konnan, do you have any last words for Glenn Gilbernetti?
Glenn, I think you need to be more respectful of myself, Vince Russo.
Yes.
We helped you a lot in the business.
Yep.
We made you, and we can take you down.
Yeah, there you go. Glenn, would you like to apologize? Just get it off your chest once and for all.
Well, I'm not gonna. You're not gonna threaten me. Okay, that sounded like a threat. Like a veiled threat. I'm not gonna. You guys are not going to keep me down.
Hey, Konnan, you see how he throws the arm? Look at him. You see that, bro? You see that with the arm like this? Who's he kidding, bro?
Bro, have you seen him posting pictures of him after a haircut?
Yeah, exactly.
What ridiculousness is that?
Yeah. Maybe you should put that picture on the man lawn. You get a couple thousand hits.
Yeah, whatever.
All right. Listen, Glenn and Konnan, I'm going to let you guys go now because me and Jeff have to wrap this up with some business. But, guys, I can't thank you enough. You know I love the both of you. You two guys, I'm going to say this right now. There are a lot of entertaining podcasts out there, podcast hosts, podcast guests. I think you two are the most entertaining guys in the podcast business. How about that?
Well, thank you, but I don't think Konnan's very entertaining. I don't think Konnan's very entertaining, though.
Wow.
That's the thing.
I think the same thing about you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully we'll do this again real soon.
All right. Be cool.
All right, take care. All right.
I better.
All right. Take care.